Good evening. It's November 1st, and I'd like to call the Board of Selectmen's meeting at 6:01 to order, and we'll open right up with public comment. Toby?
Thank you. Toby Arsenian, 95 Granite Street. I see on your agenda tonight you are considering another listening session on Long Beach. The first question is whether it's all in good faith or whether it's just an indulgence to the public, a gab fest. You get to choose from 57 varieties of ice cream, and actually we've decided that you're going to have vanilla. So I think it would certainly help if it is in good faith, if to start with you set out the timelines for the decisions and made it clear which ones are yours, the board's, and which ones are in the public domain, that is the town meeting, and to what extent your board is going to actually consider what was offered. I felt the earlier sessions that Mr. Campbell instituted when he was chair were not in good faith, because the Long Beach residents were encouraged to think, or allowed to think certainly, that they would have the option of buying the property, and nobody bothered to explain to them the various circumstances that would entail, and the limitations on it, what would be required. So I hope you'll set out a timeline and make it clear what the choices are and for whom, your board or the public. Another thing regarding Long Beach, and that was Carol Cook's petition article, which your board, quite properly, my request, put back on the warrant, and a perverse sort of miracle, the town meeting endorsed it. And that was a petition article to ask the FEMA authorities to consider removing all of the cottages, which the town does not own, and instead substituting an ecological parking lot. God knows what that might be. I don't think the Conservation Commission would be amused. So that passed, and really the fact that it did pass is entirely your board's fault, because had you asked the town administrator to explain whether FEMA might even consider such a study, and had you asked town council to explain that the town has no right to simply wipe away the cottages, the vote might have been quite different, should have been quite different. Nevertheless, it passed, and one of the things in the bylaws you're charged with is implementing the votes of town meeting. So I'm asking you what you've done with regard to Carol Cook's petition article, which the town meeting, I would say most unfortunately and improperly, endorsed.
If I recall, it was a non-binding question. So in that sense, to be honest with you, we haven't done anything with it yet, but I'm sure we'll look at it as we move forward and just review the matter as we move forward with Long Beach. So
over a year later, rather strange.
Ross, I think also we endorsed just putting it on the warrant. I don't think we supported the article.
Yep, that's correct.
I didn't say you did. The town meeting did.
Yep. All right. Thank you. Anything else, Toby?
No, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Anything else for public comment? Anyone has anything to say? All right. Seeing none, we'll move on to Christmas in Rockport. And I think Peter Weber's here, and I'm not sure. And Olivia is also here from the chamber, and they'll be giving us a quick rundown of this year's events.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll kick off, and Olivia, please join in, and we're happy to answer any questions. But thank you for giving us the opportunity to get on your agenda for a brief overview of plans for this year's Christmas in Rockport programming. Again, Peter Weber, I'm at 83 High Street here in Rockport, and here in my capacity as Senior Vice President of the Greater Cape Ann Chamber of Commerce. We did this afternoon send in a letter. I'll just give you the highlights of that letter, and again, as an overview, but key dates, first of all, the Santa's arrival by boat and the tree lighting ceremony and a lot of other activities are scheduled for Saturday, December 3rd. The lobster boat, Santa's arrival will be at 1 o'clock at T Wharf. We've been working with harbor masters Rosemary Lush and Scott Story to, and they've got all of the arrangements well in hand for the over the water transportation of Santa to T Wharf, coordinating with all the with Coast Guard and others to make that as smooth as it always is with their leadership. We've also coordinated with Chief Horvath and the Rockport Police Department for traffic and safety management on the wharf and in town. It'll be the traditional ceremonies from there. They'll be met by the Rockport Forest Fire Department and their historic fire truck and local scouts, and Santa and Mrs. Claus will take part in a short parade with the scouts involved as well over to the Baptist Church, where Santa will stay for a couple of hours for photos. There'll be children's activities going on around that. We're grateful to Michelle Allison Elwell for coordinating those activities downtown. And other activities going on that day that are traditional, or a couple of church fairs are happening that morning. And a new event, the Rockport High School Music Department is going to be doing some band performances in Dock Square that morning from 11 to noon is what's scheduled right now. And the tree lighting ceremony will kick off right around 4 o'clock, as it has for the last several years, with Laurie Tuck leading the Dock Square Singers, and leading up to the tree lighting. Chuck assures us that Chuck Osmond has found another good tree for this year, but he's always on the hunt for a better one. So he's asked us to get the word out that he's always in the market for the perfect tree for Dock Square, if not for this year, for future years. I want to also acknowledge that Stan Poole, once again, and Poole Construction are donating the smaller Christmas trees that they've donated since 2004. I can't believe it's been that long. That Chuck and his crew prepare and they place throughout the downtown area, decorate with lights. That the town's thankfully been able to acquire the last couple of years, a good supply of lights and decorations through grants that the town has obtained, has received. So we're in good shape for that, for the trees and the lighting, and that'll begin in earnest later this month, now that we're in November. The pageant is on. Pat Alto assures us that everything is in good order, and that will be Saturday, December 17th. And I know the Rockport New Year's Eve planners have been in touch with you, and they are working very hard. They've been part of our planning meetings to keep us abreast of what they're doing, but things look in good shape for New Year's Eve, thanks to the great efforts on their part. We're going to bring back some of the traditions that we added a couple of back in 2020, and others that are more traditional. But Sammy the Seagull will be back with a new treasure hunt, or I call it a scavenger hunt, but it's again hunting around town for clues to decode and win prizes for the children. So that'll be a season-long activity. We just got word that the horse-drawn wagons from the DeFazio family that have been part of Christmas in Rockport, again, for nearly 30 years, are coming back again this year, are able to come back, and that'll be December 10th. I'm kind of working back through the calendar a little bit. The retailers downtown are working on one really targeted extended hours shopping night, and that'll be Friday, December 9th. Strategically, we think it's good to focus on one night again. They're really excited about and planning, Planning is underway, and we hope a lot of shops will be open from 4 to 9 that night. The retailers have come up with an idea of a holiday shopping card that shoppers can go around and get stamped at participating stores, and that will give them a number of raffle ticket entries for 3 great prizes. And the party after the shopping, to conclude the shopping night, will be at our newest restaurant in town, Fleur Cuisine. They're excited to be hosting that after party. And again, working back in the calendar a little bit, we're having our annual Chamber Holiday Party and half price sale. That's going to be at the Fish Shack again. That'll be Tuesday, December 6th. It is meant to be a community event, free, all are welcome. It's where we say thank you to the Rockport community for all the support that we get, and it does help raise some money to help us do the programming for Christmas in Rockport. One final thing I'll mention is that Winter Lights, which Discover Gloucester, in partnership with Rockport for the last couple of years, has done very successfully. It's going to happen for a 3rd year, and we at the Chamber are partnering this year with Winter Lights. It will go through the whole season, from Small Business Saturday, which is November 26th, right through New Year's Day. And it has a new feature. We'll have a new feature this year, which is which will hopefully bring more walking traffic to not only our Rockport downtown, but all of Cape Ann's downtown areas through an opt-in for the business window decorating contest, where there'll be a way for shoppers, residents, visitors to vote for their favorite window displays in each of the 5 greater Cape Ann communities. Again, there are other activities. We're putting a full calendar together. We're updating our Rockport USA website with a Christmas and Rockport themed homepage and a dedicated page, which will have detail on these events and a whole host of other events that happen in the community, from the traditional a new tradition, Christmas at Seaview Farm, which will be Sunday, December 11th, to more traditional activities all through the town, including the church fairs. Olivia, have I missed any key points? I don't want to
No, that was
take
a
much time here.
great rundown of all of the events. The only thing I would add is something new and different we're doing this year is we're hiring a social media marketing person to help promote Christmas in Rockport as a season, as an event. But this is gonna help bring in maybe some certain audiences that we're not reaching through regular word of mouth. We would like to get in touch more with the schools to encourage families to come. Through the first few Christmas in Rockport planning meetings, we heard from locals, residents of Rockport, that hadn't even heard of Christmas in Rockport before. So we want to spread the word more completely and to a larger audience than we have in the past. So this is hopefully gonna drive a lot new people to town, and with Winter Lights happening at the same time, it will be really great. So that's all I would add.
Thank you. And any questions from the board for Peter, Selectman Murphy?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you, Olivia and Peter, for all your hard work. I'm old enough to remember when Christmas in Rockport was started in the early 80s, and it's a really wonderful time here in Rockport. It's just with the galleries and the restaurants and the festivities and Santa arriving. And now this will be the real Santa, right?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
okay. And send us the invoice. The town will pick it up.
We understand this real Santa is passionately in love with Rockport. So
He apparently he's filled with wisdom and good judgment, you know. So, but no, it's great, and a special thanks to Stan Poole who donates the small trees in memory of his parents, and he's done that. So I think that's a very touching gesture on Stan's part and his family. You know,
Indeed.
and Chuck Osmond, who does a phenomenal job with putting the tree together, and his crew. And it's always, I know it's a little overdone, but it always, you know, especially if snow is coming, it's like a Norman Rockwell painting here in Rockport. But and I'm so happy the pageant's going to continue. And Selectman Wilkinson, who played Mary, if I'm correct, in the 1990s. So I know that's special to her, but it's a great time of year, and I'd love to bring people from out of town, from my wife's work, or you know, people that don't live here, and they can walk down to the Christmas pageant, or see the all the events that are happening throughout December in Rockport. So it's a special place, and thank you. I know it's not easy to put together, so a tip of the hat to the Chamber of Commerce and the town of Rockport for continuing having this. So looking forward to it. And there, you've got commitments. Obviously, the restaurants will be staying open during this high volume time.
I know that My Place by the Sea stays open. Fleur Cuisine obviously is our new restaurant. I haven't heard from all the restaurants, but I do know
I
that.
suspect they will be. You haven't heard otherwise, you know, that
Right,
they may
right.
not be
It's
open.
it's an important time of year for them too, so.
Yeah, good.
Fish
good.
Shack
Well,
for sure, and Feather and Wedge.
Yeah.
I think they're all on board.
Good. I look forward to it, and thank you for all your hard work, all of you.
Thank you.
Thank
And,
you.
Any
I
other
just want to
questions?
acknowledge all this town has always amazed me at the volunteers who step up, and the other organizations. Like I mentioned, New Year's Eve, Rockport New Year's Eve, and others. We have a big role, but it's really also coordinating and just helping support and promote everything that happens throughout the community.
Yeah. I can remember when, in the old days, they used to have the ice sculptures, but now with temperatures changing, you can't have those anymore. But those were great. They had the chainsaws, and
Exactly.
that was a lot of fun. Maybe someday that will return.
Maybe that can be a February event or something.
Yeah, there
like
you
that,
go.
When
There you
it
go.
gets really cold.
Yeah.
Any other questions from the board or comments? I just wanted to get them in front of us, and we'll be voting on it a little later this month. So just to get everything, it's decision made. I'm sure, you know, usually it's always positive. So I just want to get any questions if the board had any. If not, we can move on.
No, this is awesome. Thank you guys so much. Nice
Thank
to see
you.
you as always. And thanks for, I know you put it together at the last minute, but for an awesome Halloween event this past Sunday. My kids have outgrown it, but I drove through to kind of check it out, and it looked like a huge turnout. I know Ross was there in some horrifically gaudy, disgusting costume.
Yeah,
But,
I saw that I was quite scared, actually.
But honestly, like Halloween and Christmas, like this is awesome post-pandemic to see this stuff back. And just the fact that we had like that nice, crisp, clear brochure for the trick or treat, you know, for the businesses trick or treating, that we could, information that's clear that we can share with people is awesome. So thanks so much for your efforts. Looking forward to a great holiday season.
Thank you. I just want to acknowledge that the business community really stepped up and in a big way. And thank you, Ross, in helping to facilitate and spread the word. We used every channel we could. Dan Tuck created a beautiful flyer, so we made sure we shared it as widely as we could. And I
Awesome.
know other businesses made sure the schools heard about it. So I like the communication channels when they're sending positive messages out, especially that we have in this town. Good.
All right, thank you, Peter and Olivia. We'll look forward to having you guys in again at a later date. So
Absolutely. Whenever you need us. Thank you.
thank you. All right, next on our agenda, we have the consent agenda, which is consider approval of minutes, if any. 85 Long Beach transfer, 118 Long Beach transfer, 12 Long Beach change of address, and 61 Long Beach transfer. And if I have a motion on that,
Yes, Mr. Chair, I have a motion. I move that the board approve all non-held items on the consent agenda.
do I have a
I'll
second?
second that.
Alrighty, roll call vote. If there's no discussion. Selectwoman Wilkinson,
Aye.
Selectman Murphy,
Aye.
Selectman Lilia,
Aye.
Selectwoman Donnelly,
Aye.
and Selectman Brackett votes aye. Motion carries. Next on our agenda is to consider approval of Rockport New Year's Eve events, and I believe Jeff Lyons here. How we doing,
A
Jeff?
lot of fun stuff tonight.
Thank you, Ross, and thank you for listening to our request for approval for Rockport New Year's Eve 2022. The format we imagined for the event is much the same as it has been in years past. There will be entertainment from 6 to midnight and a ball drop from the fire department's ladder truck in Dog Square at midnight. We have 14 venues that we plan to use this year. We want to use the large rooms and the Council of Aging Dining Room at Community House, the Peggy Brenner Room at the library, and the meeting room at Town Hall Annex. We also have lined up the Unitarian Universalist Church, the Episcopal Church, Spyron Hall upstairs and downstairs, the Fish Shack Restaurant, the RAA, Brackett's Restaurant, the Shalin Lu, and the Congregational Church Sanctuary and Fellowship Hall as performance venues. We've gotten conditional approval for all of those pending the approval of the board tonight. COVID-19 is still a concern. We expect that masks will be optional but recommended. And to make sure that the venues aren't overcrowded, we're going to hire a manager for each venue who will be responsible for enforcing the capacity limits, among other things. There won't be a parade this year, but the roaming railroad ride for families is going to return, and it will follow the same loop that it has in the past, starting out from in front of the library on School Street and then down Broadway to Mount Pleasant Street, back up Stone Barn Lane to School Street. This will necessitate the closure of Broadway between School Street and Mount Pleasant Street from 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock. We also have gotten a small troupe of stilt walkers who are going to perform. And they'll be on Broadway while it's closed, and they'll be in other locations off the streets at other times. We have arranged for 2 food trucks to come to supplement the restaurants that are open on New Year's Eve. We expect to park the food trucks on Broadway alongside Spyron Hall so that people can bring their food into Spyron Hall to eat. Attendee parking will be on the streets, and also we've arranged for Whistle Stop Mall parking there. We'd like to use the spaces behind Town Hall and the entire Town Hall Annex parking lot as we have in the past couple of years, and also some spaces at the school complex for performers to park. We would like to mark off spaces on the streets for performers to drop off and pick up equipment, and also for some more performer parking. We've been in communication with Chief Horvath, and we're coordinating on it. We'll continue to work out the details as the time gets closer. So I thank you very much for your consideration, and be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you. And I'll open it up to the board if they have any questions or comments. If none, I'll Selectman Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much for that presentation. We look forward to obviously the first night in Rockport. Are there any major changes that have occurred that we should that you may or not have highlighted in recent years, other than the food trucks? That's going to be new, correct?
That's a big change.
Yeah.
The venues vary from year to year. This year, we will not be able to use the Methodist Church or the Baptist Church. So that's a change from past years. There are no other big changes. I realize I forgot to mention buses too. We are arranging with CATA to have a couple of trolleys on.
Oh, that was going to be my one question. Okay, good. And who's going to determine the amount of people for each venue? Is it I'm just curious. I'm just thinking of questions down the road.
Well, we have the fire department capacities from the building inspector. So that's the starting point. In many cases, those capacities are for standing capacity, and we'll have chairs. So the actual capacity will be smaller. So we may have smaller capacities than the official legal capacity.
But the capacity will be set by the fire department?
The maximum, yes. And we may very well choose to limit it to a number smaller than that.
Okay.
All righty. There's no other questions or comments. I'll take a motion.
Great. I'll make a motion. Just excited to have this event back. And I know that it's been a really tough couple of years for you guys. And so I'm so excited to see it back and happy to support it however we can. Mr. Chair, I move that the board approve the Rockport New Year's Eve events for December 31st, 2022, as submitted, subject to all requirements of the police chief, fire chief, health agent, and building inspector.
I'll second that.
Alrighty, any further discussion? If none, roll call vote. Selectwoman Wilkinson,
Aye.
Selectman Murphy,
Aye.
Selectman Lilia,
Aye.
Selectwoman Donnelly,
Aye.
and Selectman Brackett votes aye. Motion carries. And we're glad to have the event back, so
Thank you very much. We'll make you
Thank
proud.
you.
thank you.
I have no doubt. Thank you.
Alrighty, next on the agenda, we have to consider approval of state election police officer assignments, and I think Mitch is gonna fill us in on this.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So the board did this for the primary. It is part of the new law that the selectmen need to make a final determination on this. It's recommended that you allow the chief to substitute an officer if he determines necessary with notice to myself and the clerk. So this is our new normal now. The board will make this type of approval before each election.
All right, any questions for Mitch?
No.
If none, I'll take a motion.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I move that the board approve the police officer assignments as determined by the chief of police for November 8th, 2022 state election. Further, the chief of police is authorized to substitute an officer at a designated location if needed arises with the notice to the town administrator and the town clerk.
I'll second that.
Alrighty, no further discussion. Seeing none, roll call vote. Selectwoman Wilkinson,
Aye.
Selectman Murphy,
Aye.
Selectman Lilia,
Aye.
Selectwoman Donnelly,
Aye.
and Selectman Brackett votes aye. Motion carries. And next is Board of Selectmen and Town Administrator updates. Mitch, if you want to touch on the date we have in mind for the Long Beach public listening session.
Certainly, Mr. Chair, thank you. So based on our conversation, I would suggest that the board consider Thursday, November 17th at 6:30 for your next public listening session. This would be in place of a meeting that week. As we discussed at the last meeting, you have 3 in November, the way the calendar falls. So this would be in place of a Tuesday meeting that week, starting at 6:30. And this one, as the board is aware, would be focused on the general public and a chance for the board to hear the general public's feedback on the future of Long Beach. The last one obviously was directed towards the tenants and their particular feedback. So this would be for the public to attend again via Zoom, 6:30 on the 17th, if the board concurs with that date option.
I'm okay. I just looked at my calendar. I'm fine with that.
Selectman Lilia,
Yes, there is, however, a conflict. There is a retirement party scheduled for 5:30 that night at the Emerson Inn. And I don't know. You're talking about 6:30, so we would be be over there at 5:30, be a part of that, and then start the meeting at 6:30.
yeah, me and Mitch took that into consideration when we discussed.
Okay,
So I can't, that night doesn't work for me because it's the middle school and high school like jazz holiday concert.
Mhm.
But if as long as it's recorded, since it's a listening session, I think it's fine if there are 4 of us there and I can just listen to the recording. Right?
Alrighty.
It'd be similar to, I mean, we're not,
Yeah.
it's not like a back and
No
forth.
votes will be
We're not
taken.
gonna, like,
No votes, yeah,
No
no back and forth.
yeah, I mean,
Um,
we're literally just gonna be listening to the public and people's thoughts, right?
Yep,
So we could record it and I could listen to it the next
Yep.
day. So as long as you're okay with that.
alrighty. Selectman Donnelly, is that all right
Yep,
with you?
works. Yep.
Alrighty. So. 15th, all right, before we move on, Mitch, if you want to do any other updates before the other items under that.
Not at this moment, Mr. Chair. If you want, if we can go through
Alrighty.
those and then I'll fill in after.
The, I just want to bring up for the board, the plowing of private roads. Obviously, this has been at a town meeting and it was passed substantially, so it's not a big issue, but I just want to bring it up so it's on our radar. There's about 91 roads that the town does that are private. There are 57 dead end roads, so I'm taking consideration on what we're looking at in the future with the timeline that it takes us to get vehicles, the damages to vehicles, which I have, these numbers are from Lenny Brusso, the highway foreman. He's also going to get costs of the damages that sometimes occur. So that'll be further down the road. This isn't for this year. This is for next year, just to consider. Selectwoman Donnelly.
Yeah, I'm confused about, I mean, we discussed this back in my first term when I was on the board. And as you said, I thought it was a settled issue. So what is the question now? Whether we
Well, I want us to take it into consideration, just to, my big thing is maybe because as far as I know, I've never heard anything about it my past 2 years. So maybe we get an update from Lenny on the criteria of the roads that will be plowed that year, just so we can, if a road needs to be fixed, we can send out a letter to the tenants of that road to bring it up to par, because we do have the criteria that was created from
yeah,
the October 2nd, 2018 meeting.
right.
So it's just something, because I've never heard anything about it. I've never heard about the condition of the roads. So I'll just get back to what Lenny said. During the winter, 40%, 40 of the roads need more work than the others. And roughly majority of the roads that need to be repaired during the winter are private roads. Again, this is from Lenny, so I just want to pass this on to the board, because this is something I just looked into. I'm not suggesting we get rid of it. I'm suggesting we try to make sure the roads are up to par so the vehicles don't
Sure.
get damaged.
Yeah, we
So-
need to be really careful because I think this is gonna panic people. So we,
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
the last time people got panicked and it was overwhelmingly like the town wanted to plow private roads at town meeting. It may have been close to unanimous. So I think this is about the condition of the private road.
Yes.
So I think I think, did somebody from the DPW approach you about the condition of some of the private
Well,
roads?
they brought it up in I think it was either 2 meetings or 1 meeting. They brought it up with the DPW director.
Yeah,
So,
I
and it
mean,
was all, see, we're not
Oh.
gonna do it this year because that was determined that it's too soon. But like one of my major things is like, for the criteria, we have the roads shall be maintained at all times in such condition that they can be plowed. So to me, that's kind of vague. So if we can at least get an update as the Board of Selectmen, so we know what kind of what roads we're working with. I just think it's something to consider with the rise in costs, the delay of trucks it takes to get in. And we can only do temporary repairs by the, I think it was the bylaw, Mitch, that allows us to do temporary repairs. We can't do any actual full paving of roads. So I just think we should take into consideration of them being up to par.
But I guess what I'm confused about is, shouldn't the DPW be reaching out to the homeowners and letting them know that their road is not in the appropriate condition and that they need to repair it? No?
Yeah, but I'm saying as we set the criteria, I feel like the selectmen should be getting an update on those roads if there are any that are in need of repair.
so I also think similarly to the last time this came up, the DPW kept trying to push it off on us, like
Mhm.
dealing
Yeah,
with private roads. So this is probably the same thing.
yeah.
Or I guess Ross and Mitch, you can correct me if I'm wrong, is there's probably some grumbling by the DPW about the condition of some of the roads. But the last time we ended up, I think, kind of taking charge. We went back and forth, had like meetings upon meetings. Because frankly, it's one of those issues nobody wants to be the bad guy on.
Mhm.
And it's one of those things that even people on private roads, they pay the same taxes as people who are on public roads. So, it's one of those things that nobody wants to deal with. So it's like buck stops with us.
Yeah.
So Denise, to answer your question, I don't think the DPW is reaching out to anyone. So I think Ross is kind of like, let's just get on the same page for next year. If there are roads that are in such bad disrepair. Is that right, Ross?
Yeah, essentially, we asked Lenny for a, kind of what he did for this email, but just so we are aware and what's going to be, spent that year, because we don't get Chapter 90 money for private roads, but the criteria, they have to make it so it's a public road in a way, because they can't put up signs that say private road or anything like that due to the selectmen's criteria. So I'm just saying we should make sure that all private roads going forward should be up to par with the criteria, and we know that for a fact.
And I think moving, looking down the road, if we were to have this discussion, we'd obviously would like to have the commissioners with us as
Yep.
well. So,
Yep, we'd have a joint meeting with the
Perfect.
commissioners, but this is just to get it on the minds of the Board of Selectmen, and
Yep.
as we look forward to next year. Nothing to do with this year. Next year, meaning next winter, not January 1st, 2023. So I just want
Got
to put that out there.
Okay.
So just for the board to consider, I can have Mitch forward the email from Lenny, and so everyone can see it, what he sent out. Next, we have the special town meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I had a conversation with the chairman of the planning board yesterday, and based on that discussion, it's his intention that we not have a special town meeting in December at this point. So we talked about timelines and turnaround time associated with the draft articles and the work that still needs to go into them from the planning board's end. And they would not be able to have that turned around in time to get it properly noticed by December 6th. Quite honestly, we would need them next week to get things properly noticed by December 6th, and that's just not feasible right now. December 6th was the singular date that the school complex was available for us, and even that they were making accommodations. So at this point, it appears that it will likely be a January meeting, of course, subject to the final determination of this board. But we are a little ways away on that right now. So I guess bottom line, there will not be a December special town meeting for you to consider. It will likely be a January special meeting for your consideration.
how many people, I know this is a tough question, but how many people would you anticipate being at the meeting?
No idea. Very, very, very difficult to gauge
Sure, yeah,
a specialty topic, special town meeting.
yeah.
Can we
So
just,
there's no other venue but the high school.
It's got to be there's no other place where we could
Yeah.
accommodate it. Yep.
and is it best if we just wait to see and wait on the draft articles before we start considering anything again, if they're not ready yet?
There's nothing for us to consider until we have the draft
Yeah.
articles.
So I don't know if we just,
So I think
Put it
at this
off until we
point,
get
it's really waiting until at this point, I would say once we receive the written materials from the planning board, we'll get them to council, and that will then at least give the board some context on an applicable timeline. But at this point, it would be January at the earliest. at
Yeah,
this
and
point.
I can also add in that January is basketball season, and from trying to help with town, school, basketball gym schedules over the past couple years, I know that gym time in the winter is like few and far between. So my guess is that January 6th is like our last, December 6th was like our last shot for a while. So who knows, but it'll work itself out.
so TBA.
I think Monty
right.
had his hand up.
I thought he was
No,
just itching
sorry.
himself.
Sorry, sorry, Monty.
He was just waving to us.
He was just-
Hi, Monty.
Hi, Monty.
Yeah, I've sat in on those meetings. There are deep. Who gets priority and when and
Right.
Okay.
And we appreciate the superintendent's office working with us on even the 6th, because I know that was requiring some behind the scenes shuffling. So
Yeah.
we'll tell them thank you, but they don't have to this time. And we'll just wait for the materials.
All right, with that, we have the opera update, and I know we've been hearing a lot from the public here and there. The biggest thing I have to say from that is I look at the surrounding communities, and we're just not at the stage where they're at. They are further down the road. They're getting ready to spend their money right now, so that's why they've had these massive presentations, updates, surveys. We're nowhere near that stage right now. The TA will be having a department heads meeting with the department heads to see where they are in the town and see where the money can be spent best. But other than that, if the public wants to comment on the ARPA funding, they can head over to COVID-19 at rockportma.gov. But with that, I'll turn it over to Mitch so we can touch on it a little more.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I think, yeah, that's an important point. Certainly if any member of the public wishes to provide feedback on what they feel would be an appropriate use for this board to consider. I think that's an important note. The final decision rests with this board. There would be no spending of funding without a public vote of this board. They can certainly email covid19@rockportma.gov. That would, the board will compile those and make sure the board has them when it comes time. To date, we have only spent $154,000 of that, based again on a vote of this board, to purchase the COVID-19 test kits, which we continue to give out on a daily basis. So the department heads will be taking some time to think about what might be an appropriate use as it relates to their department. We will have up shortly a page on the COVID-19 tab on the town website with a little bit of background on ARPA. And again, another place where it's listed that people can email the COVID account with feedback. Again, though, the final determination will be made in public deliberation by this board in one of your meetings once we're at that point.
Selectwoman Wilkinson?
Yeah, just a couple of comments. Thanks, Mitch. I think that's super helpful. I know people have mentioned other cities that have like whole websites, like Gloucester has a website dedicated to it, but Gloucester's getting $23 million. So I think that it's great if we can have a link to the direct information on ARPA funding that people can find on our website. And then besides emailing the COVID site, people can contact any of us. I tell people this all the time. You can contact any of us directly to give us ideas and we can relay them to the board. And then I know oddly, I think Jane Bettis just might have logged in, because I know that when I chaired a previous meeting that Ross, you weren't here for, she had asked about the ARPA funding. But I also wanted to add, someone asked how it would be, like where the public accounting would be for it. And I checked in with Mitch and he said that it will be noted in the accountant section of the town annual report. Because I know it does fall outside of the normal, like it's not part of our operating budget. It's not part of our capital budget. So the accountant will note it. And obviously anything that we vote, which is done publicly always, will be noted in there as well. But feel free to contact us. I've been reading a lot about some, I think there are some obviously like standard things that people are doing with the money, infrastructure things, and then, some pretty creative things. So I think we have time to kind of listen to if people have ideas and do our own research. So thanks.
And as I said, all the communities are ahead of us. There is no rush. Just to be clear, the deadline is 2024. Is that correct, Mitch, to spend the money?
So no, the determinations need to be made on
Determination.
what you want to
okay.
spend them by 2024. They have to be spent by 2026.
Okay, so just so the public knows that there is no rush. I know the other surrounding communities are ahead of us in the game in the sense of what they want to spend it on. But, we are taking our time and we'll get it done and everything will be done in this meeting, so. All right, any other updates from the board?
Just on other items.
Yep.
I was reached out to, I'm the liaison to the Board of Health, and I think in the next couple months, they would like to do a joint meeting. We haven't done one in a long time, and we have a few topics. I told them I would work with Ross and Mitch when we schedule next. No emergencies, but we have a few topics that when I've been to their meetings and spoken with them, just some joint things that would be good to chat about.
All right.
The beginning of COVID, we were meeting Tuesday and Thursdays. Remember that?
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. Because we
Selectwoman
didn't,
Donnelly?
Tuesdays and Thursdays.
I attended the Green Communities Task Force meeting. It's always great to see what that committee is up to. And there was a lot of discussion about the streetlight question and kind of moving forward and timelines. I also attended the Finance Committee meeting, And that was more Mitch giving an update on the Capital Improvement Planning Committee timing, and then just general updates about various matters involving the town. Just wanted to share that with everyone.
All right, any other updates from any other board members? If not, I'll move on to public comment. Second one for tonight, if any. Please raise your hand if you have any public comment. All right. Seeing none, and I believe we have an executive session tonight, if we have someone to take the motion.
Yeah, 1 second. All righty. Pursuant to executive session, oh, wait a minute. Isn't there supposed to be a motion about going into executive session?
That's what you'll be moving, that's what your
It's
motion
right
is.
above it.
Oh, hold
What?
on one sec, Denise.
Yep.
Yes, I did note
Yeah,
that Toby's hand just went up. He might have just
Alrighty.
missed.
all right,
Oh.
before you make that motion, Denise. we'll
Oh,
have
I see
Toby.
it. Okay, got it.
Go ahead, Toby, as soon as you're on mute, there you go.
Thank you. I was interested in your discussion about plowing the private roads. I do remember a number of years ago when the board, differently constituted, was discussing it. And Wilhelmina Sheedy, then a member of the board, remarked that it was odd that we could afford to plow private roads but not public sidewalks. She didn't go any further than that with that remark, and I'm not going any further either. You can make what you like of it, but it might be something to consider. Something else I'd also ask you to consider, and clearly you're very anxious not to rock the boat or upset people who have the expectation that their roads will be plowed. That if we're abiding by the rules that you set forth, I think before it's done for this winter, you should ask the DPW commissioners to check and see that all of the people who own the private roads are indeed abiding by the conditions. One of the conditions being that there be no signs saying private roads. And I was thinking in particular of Cathedral Avenue, going up from Pigeon Cove Harbor and connecting with Phillips. The town owns property on that road. Maureen McCarthy, I do believe, put up the sign, which looks like an official sign, a town one. And there's also one coming from the other direction, which perhaps was put there, I don't know, by the people in the Stone Barn condominiums. But I think if you're serious about the policies, you need to get the commissioners to check and attest publicly that all of the people whose roads are being plowed meet all of the conditions. Could I have a response?
I'll like I said, for my email from Lenny, he gave an update on the roads. I don't think he touched on whether the signage was up, but I'll have him take a look and get back to us. So thank you on that. All right, seeing no
Okay.
more, take it away.
I move that the board enter into executive session for the following purposes and not to reconvene in public session. Executive session pursuant to General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to litigation regarding Back Beach Neighbors Committee versus Town of Rockport, United States District Court, CA number 1:20-CV-11274. And MG, if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the litigating position of the public body, and the chair so declares, votes may be taken, will not reconvene in public session. Executive session pursuant to General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to litigation regarding Back Beach Neighbors Committee versus Town of Rockport Land Court, CA number 21, MISC 0000174. If an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the litigating position of the public body and the chair so declares, votes may be taken, will not reconvene in public session. Executive session pursuant to General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to litigation regarding Back Beach Neighbors Committee versus Town of Rockport, Essex Superior Court, docket number 2177CV 000364. If an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the litigating position of the public body and the chair so declares, votes may be taken, will not reconvene in public session. Executive session pursuant to General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to litigation regarding John Kolachowski et al. Versus Town of Rockport et al. Essex Superior Court, docket number 2277 CV 00947. If an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the litigating position of the public body and the chair so declares, votes may be taken, will not reconvene in public session. Executive session pursuant to General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to litigation regarding Stephen Abel versus Town of Rockport et al., MCAD docket number 22BEM00744. If an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the litigating position of the public body and the chair so declares, votes may be taken, will not reconvene in public session. Executive session pursuant to General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to litigation regarding Glenn McLeod et al. Versus Town of Rockport et al., Essex Superior Court, docket number 2177 CV 00077. If an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the litigating position of the public body and the chair so declares, votes may be taken, will not reconvene in public session. Executive session pursuant to General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A2, to discuss strategy with respect to negotiations with non-union personnel, police chief. If an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the public body and the chair so declares, votes may be taken, will not reconvene in public session. Executive session pursuant to General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to litigation regarding Rousseau et al. Versus Town of Rockport, United States District Court, CA number 1:22-CV-10331 JGD. If an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the litigating position of the public body and the chair so declares, votes may be taken, will not reconvene in public session.
All right. do I have
Denise,
a
I was
second?
on mute. Can you repeat that?
No.
Do I have a
I'll
second?
second that. I'll second that.
All righty, we are entering into an executive session because by not doing so, it would be detrimental to the town's negotiating position. The board will not reconvene in open session. Roll call vote, Selectwoman Wilkinson,
Aye.
Selectman Murphy,
Aye.
Selectman Loya,
Aye.
Selectwoman Donnelly,
Aye.
and Selectman Brackett votes aye. Motion carries. We are entering into executive session.
At this time, the selectmen are entering into executive session. The public portion of the meeting has ended. We ask that you please exit the meeting at this time. At this time, the public portion of the Board of Selectmen's meeting has ended. We ask that you please exit the meeting at this time. The board will not reconvene in public session. We ask that you please exit the meeting at this time. And final reminder, we ask that you please exit the meeting at this time. The public portion of the meeting has ended. The board will not reconvene in public session. At this time, we will place any remaining individuals into the waiting room.